How are you, my candidates? Hope everyone is safe and okay. Today I am going to start our new topics and our new chapter. Our new chapter is chapter 7. It also the gaseous exchange of gas. Here the exchange of gas. Today I just select two topics. First topic is the gaseous exchange of in plants, and the another topic is the respiratory system in human body. Okay, please everyone see the books, and I also write the two category. One category is the photosynthesis and respiration. In the previous class, I also repeat the chapter 4, the photosynthesis and respiration. Here I also just this is the hypothesis. First structure is photosynthesis. I just first start our new topics is the lesson 7.1. This 7.1, this structure is the gas exchange in plants. First, in photosynthesis, here I also write the synthesis. First structure is carbon dioxide and water. Here the structure or produced structure is the glucose, it's also the main product, and water is also the byproduct, and main structure is oxygen. Please everyone see the board. Here I also see the first gaseous structure is carbon dioxide and another gaseous structure is oxygen. And respiration, here I also write that this structure first is glucose and oxygen, then oxygen also the includes, and the carbon dioxide, here I also see the carbon dioxide and water and the energy. Now please everyone see the books. What is the gas exchange in plants? We know that photosynthesis and respiration are the two very important processes in the plant. A plant exchanges gases mainly through these two physiological processes. Here I just first structure beginning is also the photosynthesis and another is the respiration. Here these two processes are accomplished through many chemical reactions. Plants take first, they also take carbon dioxide from air and leave oxygen, and this process is also the photosynthesis. They also take carbon dioxide and leave this structure is oxygen. And the other hand, plants take oxygen from air and leave carbon dioxide by respiration. Here the plants take the oxygen and leave the carbon dioxide, and this process or this physiological process is also the respiration. There is no special organ in the plant of breath. Have the plant is nose? No, they have no any special structure of breath. The exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide and other gases occurs through the stomata of leaves and lenticels. We also explained the chapter 4 and chapter 5 what is the lenticels and what is the stomata. And on the bark of the mature stem, in plants, the frequent exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide does not occur. It happens to an animal in daylight or in presence of sufficient light. The rate of photosynthesis becomes high. An amount of oxygen gas produced in photosynthesis. I also see that this structure is the photosynthesis and is also produced by photosynthesis, and it also this gas is also very important structure for any human body. And in speed of respiration, here reversely, an amount of carbon dioxide gas produced in respiration is used in photosynthesis, and so the amount of gases exchanged of approximately the same. Here another structure is respiration, the amount of oxygen, also the leave and the produce of carbon dioxide. And at the night, the light phase of photosynthesis process ceases. And so oxygen gas is not produced, but the respiration process occurs round the clock, day and night, at the 24 hours. And the production of carbon dioxide continues. The carbon dioxide gas is released in the environment through stomata. These gases are also exchanged through the lenticels developed in the bark of the mature stem. This is why breathing problem may develop if someone sleeps under a big tree at night. When at night it also the carbon dioxide is not also the produced, only the produced the oxygen. Here our second structure is the respiratory system in human body. Here please everyone see the boards. I just draw the G structure, basically 7 structure. Here first structure is nasal cavity. I just draw this structure is nasal cavity. Second structure is pharynx. Please everyone see the board. This structure is pharynx. Third structure is the muscular structure. This structure is larynx. And fourth and the D structure is trachea. Here the ring shaped structure is the trachea. Fifth structure is bronchus. Here this structure is 2 branches and is also the name of bronchus. And main structure of the respiratory system or in the human body is the very important structure is lungs. There are 2 parts of lungs, left and right lungs. And I also draw another structure of lungs. It's also the very important structure. Okay? And the last structure is diaphragm. The last structure is diaphragm is there. Again, I also explain about the human respiratory system. Our first structure is nasal cavity and nasal passages. The nose is the beginner of respiratory system. It is a triangular hollow organ situated above the buccal cavity. It helps to sense the smell of a substance. A specific type of nerve in the nose stimulates the organ to give us the sense of smell. Its structure is such that it makes the inhaled air suitable to be received by the lungs. So our first structure is nasal cavity. The nasal passage extends from an aperture in front of the nose and up to the pharynx behind. A thin partition divides it. Its front side is covered with cilia and the rear part is lined by mucus producing membrane. The cilia. What's the cilia? The cilia together with mucus serve to trap foreign substances such as germs and dust. Before entering the lungs, this makes the air relatively from the air. The inhaled air when passed through the nasal passage becomes warm and moist to that sudden cold air does not harm the lungs. Our first structure is the nasal cavity and here also stay the cilia. This structure is cilia and the another structure is the mucous membrane. Okay. Second structure is the pharynx. Basically this structure is pharynx and I also explain about the pharynx. Pharynx. If we open our mouth, the pharynx can be seen at the back of the mouth. It extends behind the nasal passage to the upper part of larynx. And this structure is larynx and the upper part is the pharynx. Here, at the back of the roof of the mouth, there is a small tongue-like part called the soft palate. When swallowing food or drink, the soft palate closes the backside of the nasal cavity. As a result, food cannot come out through the nostrils. Another important function of the soft palate is to produce mucus. So our second structure is the pharynx and this structure is the very important part of any human body. Third structure is larynx. Basically, this structure is the larynx, and is also the state in the another structure is the human parts. It is situated below the pharynx and at the top of the trachea. There are two-fourths of muscles situated on opposite sides of the larynx. These are the vocal cords. A flap of soft tissue at the back of tongue is the epiglottis. It acts as a lid at the time of taking food. This lid covers the opening of the larynx, so food particles cannot enter the oesophagus, while keeping the larynx open during respiration, so air can get into lungs through these spaces, but it has no any function in respiration. The fourth structure is trachea. Basically, this structure is the another part. This structure, trachea, this is a hollow tube which lies in front of the oesophagus and extends from the larynx downwards into the thoracic cavity. It is supported by incomplete rings of cartilage and smooth muscles. Here, this is the incomplete structure, and this structure is basically structure of cartilage and smooth muscles. The inner layer of the trachea is covered with mucous membrane of cilia, and the cilia is also the trachea. Air flows through the trachea, but through the constant rhythmic being of the cilia, the trapped dust, germs and other unwanted particles are expelled. Dear student, our next structure is bronchus. Basically, this structure is bronchus, and the first structure is bronchioles. Here the bronchus, the lower end of the trachea, is divided into two bronchi, which lead to the right and left lobes respectively. There is the two parts. This part is the one bronchi, and this part is the another bronchi. And these are the bronchi. Each of the bronchi divides and subdivides repeatedly to form bronchioles. And subdivides structure is the another name is the bronchioles. And the structures of the bronchi are just like the trachea. And our main structure, basically this structure is very important parts. They are basically two parts, left side and the right side. Here I just draw the briefly. This structure is also the lungs. The lungs are the main organ of the respiratory system. The right and left lungs are situated on either side of the heart within the thoracic cavity. They are spongy, soft and light reddish in color. The right lung is three-lobed and the left lung is the two-lobed. The light lungs, here I also draw the light lungs. They are also the three lobes, one lobes, two lobes and three lobes. And the left lungs is also the divides the two lobes. The entire surface of the lung is covered in a double-layered membrane, which is named is the pleura. What is the pleura? The space between the two layers contains a fluid. Their structure is basically, I just draw this structure. The another name is the pleura, and it's also the two parts. This pleura, basically, this shapes lungs from friction, and the lungs rub against the thorax during breathing movement. The lungs contain numerous air sacs called alveoli, some bronchioles and blood vessels. The smaller bronchioles, alveolar ducts, terminates in crushed alveoli, so air can enter from the nasal passage to the alveoli directly. Each alveolar singular part is the alveoli. One is composed of a single layer of epithelial tissue. The another structure is alveoli. Basically, these are the balloon-shaped structure and the name of the alveoli, and they are basically epithelial, one layer epithelial cells. This structure, please if you see the books, Each alveolar singular of alveoli wall is composed of single layer of epithelial tissue. The alveoli are surrounded by meshwork of capillaries, and this structure is the capillaries. Okay, and when air enters the alveolus, it extends like a balloon and later contracts automatically. The wall of the alveoli and blood capillaries are so thin that gaseous exchange occurs between them. Our last structure is the diaphragm. What is the diaphragm? The diaphragm is a muscular sheath which separates the thoracic cavity from the abdominal cavity. There are two parts between. First structure is the thoracic cavity and another is the abdominal cavity. It looks like a spread umbrella. When the diaphragm contracts, it moves downwards and the volume of the thoracic cavity increases. When the diaphragm expands, it moves upward. The thoracic cavity contracts and returns to its normal position. The diaphragm plays an important role in respiration. Dear students, I just explained only the short brief about the respiratory system. Here the respiratory system, I just draw this structure, and another and main structure is lungs. I just draw this. Please everyone try these two structure, and thank you.